So today I'm just going to show you how I really integrated Make.com to have automated lead follow-up sequence for us. So this is real world. This is how I use it on a day-to-day basis. So let's start off looking at how our leads come in. So we run a car tuning and remapping businesses, and our leads come in like this. They come in as vehicle details. We've got customer name, email, phone number, make, model, before horsepower, after horsepower, before torque, after torque. Now, what we need to do is we need to extract that information from how the lead comes in and then send a follow-up sequence, just giving the customer a price, availability, and then following up if we don't hear from them. So I'm not saying this is the cleanest way to do it. This is how I built it. This is one of the first automations I built, and this is how I did it. So if we head into make.com, we've got two scenarios that are part of this. So the first scenario is getting the remap lead from my email into a Google Sheet. So to do this, I like to once over all of my leads. And this is a prime example of why I like to once over all the leads, because this one has obviously just come through with a fake name and a fake email. So this one is just, might as well delete it. There's no information here. So this is why I kind of like to once over them, just to delete it, get it out of the way. There's no point in going through the thing. You could add some sort of filter where it verifies the email, but I like to just delete them because with what we do also, we'll sometimes get the same person put through like 5 different regs, um, which would then create 5 different leads in the system. But again, there's other ways around it. You could put a filter that, only contacts them once or something. And we have different prices depending on the type of car. So I like to just once over. You could automate this whole thing, but I like to once over the lead before I put it into the sequence. That's how I like to do it. So this lead here then, so this one is ready to go. And to get this into the first scenario, I just add a label in Gmail. So add a label at the top, and I call this remap lead, and then I just move it to the remap lead folder out of my inbox, out the way. So now if we head back into the scenario, this scenario runs every 30 minutes. I did have it originally on watching for when an email had the label added, but I found it a little bit unreliable because quite often, I'd wake up in the morning, there'd be a bunch of leads, and then I'd add a load, and it wasn't very happy. So now I have it just run every 30 minutes. It'll check, is there any new emails with the label, which is, fast enough from what I do. So this checks every 30 minutes for the Gmail filter remap lead. And then the next module transforms text into structured data. So this extracts what is in the email in that format, wherever it's gone, that kind of format. So make, model, before horsepower, after horsepower, etc. And then it puts it in a way that we can put it into the sheet. It also does the capitalization. So you can see on here, it brings through Ford and Focus ST in full caps, which if we then send an automated email to a customer saying, here's your remap for your Focus ST in caps, it's going to look clearly copy and pasted and not very professional. It needs to be capitalized correctly. So I do that in this step as well. So this extracts the customer's data, capitalizes everything correctly, and then puts it into a Google Sheet of all of my leads that I've got. So description, the vehicle's plate number, text, and then first name, email address, etc. All the stuff we need, and then it funnels it into a Google Sheet that I've called Remapping Leads, and then we got column A first name, column B last name, email, phone, make, model, all the information we need to create the follow-up email. So I'm just going to run this scenario. Let me get my face out of the way. So I'll run this. You see it's on every 30 minutes normally, and that should pick up the one lead. So picked up that one lead that we've just added the label to. It's extracted the data. So if we go to, oh, there it is, the output. So it's got the vehicle and vehicle number plate, first name, last name, email, phone number, etc. And then Google Sheet, you can see is added to the Google Sheets. It's updated the rows, updated 11 columns and 1 row. So now, once we have it in the Google Sheet, I have a separate scenario that then follows up on the new leads in the Google Sheet. So it is this one. So follow up on remap lead. And this one has a few more steps in it. So this one also runs every 30 minutes. So the maximum it would take me to follow up on a lead would be an hour from me adding the label. But if I've done a bunch in the morning or something, I will just sometimes come in and just click run, just so that it follows up on them all. But anyway, so now we need to extract the information from the Google Sheet and put it into an email. So the first step is watch new rows in Google Sheets. So this is linked up to the sheet that we just put the new leads in. So the remap and leads sheet, and it checks if there is any new rows since it last ran. So every 30 minutes it checks, is there any new rows? If there is a new row, it goes to the next step. Now this next step is to set multiple variables. So we need to extract the information from the Google Sheets, and we need to put it in a way that can be structured in make.com so that we can create the conversation. So that is extracting the customer's email and setting it as the variable email, extracting the vehicle make and extracting it as a vehicle make, first name as first name. You get the idea, before horsepower, after horsepower. So we can then use them variables to craft a good follow-up email. And the next step is a ChatGPT module. So this creates the email body. So this is the follow-up email. And what I do is I give it a good solid system prompt of how I want it to behave, how I want the email to sound, what it is doing, and I give it a good template and tell it to stick quite closely to that. I found that if I gave it a bit too much free rein, that it just sounded a bit cheesy and a bit fake when I gave it a bit more free rein with the emails. Now, ChatGPT is a bit better with some industries than others, but for me, I didn't like the style it kept going with. It kept referring to cars as rides and stuff. You know, it was quite American-fied, so I gave it quite a good template to stick, and I said stick quite closely to that, and now I'm pleased with it. There was a bit of trial and error with this. It's literally just a case of checking the examples, making sure you're happy, and then adjusting from there. There's no one way to do this. This with all AI, it's just a case of trial and error and figuring out how you want it to run. Yeah, that's that. So that then creates the email body. Then I have another ChatGPT module that creates the email subject. So that is quite literally as simple as remapping inquiry for your vehicle make. And it takes that vehicle make from the set variable that we set earlier. And then finally, we use a help desk platform called Help Scout. So this keeps all of our messaging all in one place because we use Facebook, Instagram, eBay. We have a live chat on the website. Email. We have two separate email addresses. It Help Scout combines all of these into one inbox, which is why we use it. So the remapped leads then want to get sent to Help Scout and open the conversation so that when they reply, it's just immediately in the inbox and we can see what the first email was. So we use this. So the subject of the new conversation, so create a conversation module, and the subject is the result of this one, because this one is what made the email subject. And then the actual text for the reply is the result of this ChatGPT module where it created the text, the email body. And what it does is it creates a new conversation inside Help Scout, and it adds the tag remap lead. And this is important to the follow-up sequence that I've also got going. And it leaves the conversation as pending. So it leaves the conversation as pending in Help Scout, and it adds the tag remap lead. Now, once the conversation has been created, so I'll just run this, and this should then create the conversation for the remap lead we've just put in. So yeah, you see Google Sheets picked up one, new, set multiple variables. It's created the email created the email body, created the email subject, and then it should have posted bundle one. Yep, so it's created a new conversation ID there. And then, we've got the title there, remap inquiry for your BMW, and create a new customer, and it has created this whole reply here. Cool. So then we go into Help Scout, and we've got the new lead conversation here that's come through. And the final step of all of this is workflows in Help Scout. So within workflows it allows for another set of automations. So I use the Help Scout because the Help Scout workflows are included in our subscription and it does what I need it to do. So I have another automatic workflow called mapping here. And this leads into what I was mentioning earlier about the tag. So once the conversation is created in Help Scout, Make.com adds the conversation tag remap lead and it sets the conversation status to pending. And then if there is no reply in 2 days, it will then send an email to the customer. So it's just basic if logic. So if the tag is remap lead and the conversation is equal to pending and there's been no response for 2 days, then we send the email to the customer and change the status to closed. So once I send that email, I don't follow up anymore. I send the initial email, a follow up, and that's it. And then we can customize the email, but it's as simple as, hey, variable of the customer first name, wanted to check in, if you want to get booked in. And that is it. That is as simple as that. I have noticed a noticeable increase in the amount of leads that we're turning into jobs. And it has saved me an insane amount of time because I used to do this manually, or I used to call people. I do still call some people. I don't like calling, to be honest. It's not really my thing. And I find that some people just give you fake numbers. They don't really like you calling. So I much prefer to just follow up on email. But now we reliably follow up on every email. And it's a much, much better system. So I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. I'm not saying this is the fastest way to do it or the most efficient. But this is how I really did it in my business. And, if there's anything that you could improve on it, love to hear it. If there's anything that I could help you with, I would love to hear it. So hope to speak to you guys soon with another video.